The Lightning Shadow, Chapter 1. Today was the day. Mudskipper was hoping that this day would come for a long time. Today his best friend Lightning was supposed to come back after a long racing trip. And not only that, the villagers and their leader have all decided to host a welcome party for him. He was working on a sword in his shop, slamming his hammer down on the fiery red sword, watching as the sparks flew from it. He was making the sword for his friend, Lightning. The color of it, gold with a red ruby on its handle. Mudskipper, a voice sounded from the entrance room. Mudskipper's tail flicked at the sound of Acidalia's voice. "If it isn't my good pal Acidalia." "Come on in, buddy," he said with joy in his eyes. The acid wing walked into the room. "So, what do you need? Anything that's broken? If that's the case, I can handle it." Mudskipper inquired. Acidalia smiled as he shook his head. "I don't need anything fixed, man. I'm just here to let you know that you don't need to tell him anything, Acid. I got this." That was the voice he was looking for. Mudskipper raced to the entrance and hugged the red and yellow skywing that entered it. "Lightning! I knew you were coming!" he boomed, joy overflowing his eyes as happy tears streamed down his face. Oh my god, why the hell did I say fears? Lightning only managed a chuckle as he hugged his buddy back. "Why are you working here? Aren't you going to help out with the welcome home party?" "I can't tell you that, bestie. You wouldn't want to ruin the surprise, won't you?" Mudskipper asked. Okay, I won't ask you about the surprise," Lightning responded, chuckling more. Mudskipper smiled. He knew that he could count on his friend. "Are we just going to stand here and look at each other like dragons who fell in love, or are we going to go into that party?" Acidalia asked, stomping one foot. Mudskipper and Lightning looked at each other like, did he just call us what we thought he did? Before Lightning said hurriedly, No. Me and Mudskipper are just friends. I'm just messing around with you two. Or am I? We'll never know. Now come on, let's go," he said, and they watched as his green tail disappeared behind the door. "Okay, when are we going to tell him that we're in love?" Lightning asked. Mudskipper shrugged. "I don't know, but we've got to tell him at some point," he said, heading towards the door. The dining hall in Lotus's dining hall was crowded by the time Lightning, Mudskipper, and Acidalia entered through the doors. The palace inside was pink, white, and gold with a lotus lily pad on the ceiling. Vines snaked their way around the pillars that were holding this place up. The dining table was on an island surrounded by a lotus pond that was about the size of the table. Wow. This hall is pretty. It's almost as pretty as Queen Angler's palace, Lightning said, taking in every detail. If you say that to the Queen of the Sea Wings, she'll have your head on a spear, Acidalia replied. His eyes suddenly widened as he got distracted by a small orange hive wing climbing on one of the pillars. Hey, whoa, what are you doing climbing on the pillars, man? The hive wing looked down at the acid wing and panicked. Showed his eyes as he realized how far up he was. I got curious on how far I can climb on the pillars, and Rex, get down here now! A voice shouted from behind, and a purple rainwing materialized beside Lightning, who let out a yelp and crashed into Mudskipper, sending them both tumbling. The rainwing's frill turned yellow with amusement and chuckled as Rex, who it was the hive wing, slowly climbed down. What do you know? It seems my scare tactics are still in touch, he said, walking away from the two dragons, who were both looking at him in annoyance. As he grabbed Rex by the arm and walked away to chat with a few other dragons. A pink dragon with deep magenta stripes on her tail looked at the purple dragon with a fierce look in her eyes. What's his problem? She asked. Lightning and Mudskipper tried to get up. Lightning slid off Mudskipper's back as he got up. I don't like that dragon, Lightning grumbled. I can't tell what I don't like anymore. Either that rainwing or the analog smile. She shivered as she held Lightning up. Anyways, welcome back to Scorpion Island. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta go find some friends of mine, she said, dashing off. Lightning nodded to Mudskipper and said, "Shall we?" Mudskipper nodded back, "We shall," and followed him to the dining table, where a group of dragons sat chatting away. "Hey, Lightning! Welcome back, soldier!" That voice was Moodring, a shifter wing. She had a pretty dulled scales that came in all colors of the rainbow. "It's good to be back, Moodring," Lightning said. "How was the race, man?" Acidalia asked. "Oh, it was great. I saw my buddy Blink out there, and he was curious about where I've been since Bronze cast me out of the Sky Kingdom," the Sky Queen responded, while the two continued chatting. Mudskipper couldn't help but notice a bar at the end of the dining table, where the space between it was just wide enough for a couple of dragons to stand in the middle of it. Mudskipper tapped Lightning on the shoulder. "Hey, Lightning, what do you want from the bar?" he whispered in Lightning's ear. "I'll have my usual," Lightning responded. Mudskipper froze as he was about to jump over the Lotus pond. "Oh, moons! What's his usual?" You do remember my usual drink at the bar, right?" Lightning what the hell? Okay, how do you pronounce that? Queried? Whatever, let's just forget it. The freckled mud-brown dragon slowly turned around, his heart racing. Yeah, sure, let me just ask the bartender. He let out an awkward chuckle before dashing towards the bar. A yellow and blue bulky sea wing was added, making some drinks for dragons, but Mudskipper could tell from the look on his face that he had no clue what he's doing. Hey, do you know what lightnings usually is? The sea wing looked up and then in a deep voice, oh no, I just got here after the last guy quit. Yzma was really mad about that. Will you be quiet? I'm trying to watch what's going on in the portal that Lotus made. Sapphire snapped at the two, causing them to look at the glowing starry portal. A bronze-colored mud wing with a cream underbelly and dark brown freckles running down her back was sitting behind a table with scrolls, and Mudskipper could tell that the Mudwing was Lotus, an ex-human with supernatural powers. And now joining us here in the news studios is an ex-member of the Jackals. That's what it is. Anyways, an ex-member of the Jackals, Komodo, a golden mudwing with sandwing legs strode onto the studio that Lotus was in, and a few dragons gasped in interest. A new hybrid? He looks so strong. I could easily beat him in a fight, don't you think? Dragons whispered. Komodo, before we go far into this news section, I have to ask, what made you disband the Jackals? Lotus asked, curiosity sparking her new voice. Komodo cleared his throat before explaining. Well, my father, Sidewinder, he wanted me to be the leader of this group, but I didn't want to do that. So when he died to an animus, I decided to disband his group and made it into a racing group. And I'm not talking about a random animus, I'm talking about an animus that's so insane that Albatross will jump out of his scales at the mere sight of her. As the group of dragons watched curiosity in their eyes, Mudskipper turned towards the dragons and asked, who's Albatross? The bartender in dark gray and blue silkwing looked at each other, shrugged. I'm proud of you, honestly. That was the wrong voice. I'm proud of you, honestly. Being part of a bloodline that's full of evil dragons, is difficult, you know? Lotus said on the portal. Komodo nodded his head in agreement. Lotus cleared her throat and continued. Anyways, I heard that you were hosting a celebratory race after Sidewinder's defeat. Is that correct? Why, yes, it is. I've been planning this race ever since my father passed away, and from what I've heard, you have a racer that just happened to land in your talent. Is that correct? Komodo asked wearily. Mudskipper's mouth opened just the slightest as he heard their conversation. Why, yes. We do have a racer on our island. He used to be a racer for the Skywings, but he got outcasted a long time ago, Lotus responded. Great. I invite him to the race. Or is he too scared to race after what happened last time? Komodo smirked. Mudskipper froze, anger making the blood in his ears rush. How dare they insult my best friend like that? Well, I won't let him get away with that. He thought walking out of the dining room. Lightning looked at the commotion at the bar, curiously tilting his head. What in the three moons is happening over there? Mood Ring asked, uneasiness in her voice. Lightning looked at Mood Ring, sharing her uncertainty. I don't know, he replied, walking over to sit right next to Sapphire and giving the Stonewing a tap on the shoulder. Hey, what's happening on the portal? Well, apparently this ex-mafia member named Komodo was saying that you were scared and Mudskipper left. I think he's going to the news studio, Sapphire responded. He did what? Lightning asked, just as Mudskipper's voice could be heard from the portal. Now let me tell you something, Komodo. My friend Lightning is the greatest dragon of all time. He's not scared of any race, he said, and Lightning could tell he was angry. Oh no. He really went over to the news studio, didn't he? Lightning thought, embarrassment flooding through him. Komodo turned his head towards Mudskipper as the brown speckled Mudwing took a seat next to Lotus, growling. And who is this? He said with amusement in his voice. Lotus turned towards Mudskipper with a look of confusion on her face. Why, this is Mudskipper, the blacksmith of the town, and Lightning's one and only best friend. Mudskipper butted in. Aw, he's your friend. Well, it's nice to see that you are standing up for your friend, but I believe that you are interrupting something. Run along now, Komodo said, flicking his tail. Mudskipper, get back here right now. Let me handle this, Lightning thought. And in an instant, Mudskipper was teleported back to the dining hall and ended up throwing his insult at a yellow Sandwing who was looking at the magenta Rainwing in confusion. Was that supposed to be for Komodo? She asked. Lightning closed his eyes and opened them. He wasn't in the dining hall any longer, but in the news studio, sitting next to Lotus. He felt his blood run cold for a few seconds before he heard Komodo say, "Well, if it isn't Lightning himself, I could finally see the legendary animus for myself." Lotus looked at Lightning, fear in her eyes. Lightning, what are you doing? Using your animus magic to teleport yourself here? Her voice sounded like a mother talking to a young dragon. I told you, Lotus. I'll only use my animus magic during chaotic situations, and this is a chaotic situation, Lightning replied. Lotus gave a silent nod, still glaring at Lightning with worry as he cleared his throat. Yes, this is the almighty Lightning at your service. Did you hear correctly? You were inviting me to your race? Yeah, sorry, I kind of fucked up the voice. God damn it. Okay, let's just ignore that. Komodo placed a talon on Lightning's and smirked. Why, yes, Lightning, and not just any race. This is a worldwide race to spread awareness of the jackals and how cruel they are. I'm talking about all 10 kingdoms, coming together to make this race possible. And it all starts with you. Lightning's eyes widened, Kamado inviting him to race. A race that can help spread awareness of a certain mafia group. That's what I meant to say, god dang it. Okay, sorry. I just got back from one race. I guess another race wouldn't hurt anyone. He looked at Lotus, who was still eyeing him warily. I know my answer, and it's not gonna be no. Finally, he took a deep breath and said, "Yes, Kamado, I accept your offer." A loud cheering came from the portal Lotus had, and he looked down. A group of dragons were letting out roars of success and pride. Some were hugging each other, while others were just staring at each other with a face that said, "He's racing again." Kamado placed a wing over his shoulder and smiled. "You did good, Lightning," he whispered to his ear. Lightning raised his head and looked at the sand-mud hybrid and smiled shyly. "Yeah, I did it. I did," he said as the portal closed. He walked over towards Lotus, whose face changed from fearful to happy. Lightning guessed that as soon as he accepted the offer, she knew that he was still himself. "Listen, Lotus, I know that I just got back from my last race, but this race has a purpose. A real purpose. And if this race is going to start with me joining, it should end with me winning," he explained. Lotus gave him a pat on the back. "You're good," she replied. Then she added, "Oh, I forgot to ask you something." Lightning turned towards Lotus just as he was about to fly out of the studio. "Yeah? Who are you bringing to the race?" Lotus asked. "Bah, that's easy. I'll just bring my usual team," he replied. However, the look that Lotus gave him made him wish that he didn't say that. "What about Mud Skipper? You never bring him?" Lightning's heart twisted as he realized that was true. Ever since he got back into racing, he never seemed to care if he brought his friend to any of them, and made him feel bad. "Mud Skipper always looks so sad when I go to a race without him. I guess now's the time to make a change." "Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'll bring my friend along."